The invisible hand of fate has loomed in human consciousness for our entire brief existence on the earth. The ancient Greeks painted the gods who controlled our world as fickle and petulant, and yet to defy them was an impossible task that would only lead to failure, death, and misery. In his play Oedipus Rex, Sophocles perfectly encapsulates the Greeks' belief in the futility of resisting one's fate. Despite having saved Thebes from the tyranny of the Sphinx by solving a dumb riddle that doesn't make sense if you think about it for even a second, Oedipus still must be punished for trying to resist the horrible path the gods have set before him. Prophesied to kill his father and marry his mother, both Oedipus and his parents do everything in their power to avoid it coming true, but in doing so only serve to make the prediction come to fruition. The structure of the play even accentuates the inevitability of fate, beginning with the prophecy already having come to pass, and following Oedipus as he simply figures out what he has already done. It's winter 1961 at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Mathematician and meteorologist Edward Lorenz has been playing with a new electronic computer. Yes, there used to be computers that weren't electronic. He has written a simple computer program to simulate weather patterns, feeding the initial conditions as a series of numbers and then watching as digital winds and electronic cyclones danced about, represented by printouts on paper. One day, Lorenz planned to rerun a sequence, but decided to save time, so instead of feeding his original conditions, he chose data from the middle of the previous run. He typed the digits from the printout into the computer and let the program run. An hour later, he came back and found that his run had diverged drastically from the original one. He soon realized that the computer's memory stored numbers in 6 decimal places, but to save space when printing out the sequence, the computer would only print to 3 decimal places. The computer's number was 0.506127. But when re-entering it, he had simply put 0.506. This almost infinitesimal fraction created a huge difference in the patterns that emerged. This is a result of what we now know as the butterfly effect, named after the idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in one place in the world can have a cascading effect and cause a hurricane in another part. It is a part of chaos theory, a field of scientific study which hypothesizes that even though we live in a deterministic universe guided by rules, we will never be able to predict what is going to happen. Even if we know our fate, like Oedipus, we are powerless to stop it. It's very easy to feel overwhelmed by this, like you're caught in a flash flood, swept along by forces beyond your control and understanding. It's a feeling central to the human experience. American historian Henry Brooks Adams said, "Chaos is the law of nature, order the dream of man." The dream is everything we do in this world. From the construction of borders, identities, and ideologies, it is a way of trying to instill order on the chaos that surrounds us. But I think every now and then, it's good to embrace the truth of the universe, that it is cold and indifferent, that it follows its own rules, and ultimately, we are unable to stop it. Art has always been a way to confront the darker truths of the human experience, a form of play which allows us to safely engage with ideas and things that could do us harm. Video games have now begun to add a level of immersion that was hitherto unseen. We can now not only interact with ideas, but whole complex systems. While a story about some unknowable eldritch horror may help us conceptualize a world of chaos, a game can make us live in one. Invisible dice rolls can emulate a world that does not care about your emotions and desires. The unseen hand of God will rain tragedy down on you for reasons beyond your comprehension. There's one game series that I feel perfectly encapsulates this nihilism. A game with a world that reflects our own. A world plunged into chaos and darkness on a global scale. That series is, of course, Mario Party. Okay, let's go back a little bit. First, I'll explain why the game I'm talking about isn't Dark Souls. Dark Souls is about death. It's about depression. It's about sadness. But it is ultimately a game about perseverance leading to reward. To beat it, you have to get good, but you can get good at it. Yes, it's punishing. Yes, it has a steep learning curve, but it is not insurmountable. You can master it. Even the multiplayer aspect of Dark Souls is somewhat optimistic. Sure, other players can invade and attack you, but even this instills healthy competition. The core goal of summoning people is working together in order to overcome the game's steepest challenges. I think that's beautiful. Mario Party has none of that. If you don't know anything about it, I'll give you a brief overview. The first Mario Party came out in 1998 on the Nintendo 64. The franchise has been a Nintendo staple ever since. The basic rules and structure have been the same throughout every iteration, with only some minor variations. The main party mode takes the form of a board game. It's always 4 players, so any non-human players will be filled in with the computer. You roll a dice to move around. The aim is to collect the most stars by the end of the game. You You collect stars by buying them with coins. Coins can be gained in a variety of ways. Landing on any blue tile will reward you with a small amount. There are also different mechanisms that allow you to steal coins or earn them in different ways, but the main way you earn coins is through the minigames. After every player has had their turn in a round, everyone plays against each other in a minigame to win coins. This is the main skill-based portion of the game. The better you are at the minigames, the more coins you get, and the more coins you get, the more stars you can buy. There is also some skill on how you navigate the branching paths on the board, or how you deploy the variety of items you can acquire. Having said that, who wins the game is very much dependent on mechanisms beyond your control. There are Bowser tiles where people can lose coins or stars. There are tiles that make you lose coins to other players, hidden squares that can contain secret coins or stars. There are events on the map that shake up the status quo constantly. Even the minigames are not predictable. Sometimes you split into teams depending on which color tiles you landed on. Sometimes it's 1v3 minigames. Alliances are meaningless as you don't get to decide who you team up with in the minigames. At the end of the game, extra stars are rewarded to players for certain achievements. There's a set list of achievements, but a random 2 are chosen by the game each time. Sometimes the person who moved the most places gets a bonus star. Sometimes it's the person who walked the least. Sometimes it's who won the most minigames. It is random. It is chaotic. And if it's tight, it can utterly change who is victorious in the final, unplayable seconds of the game. It is interesting too that it takes the form of a board game, specifically a game with tiles in which you progress with a dice roll. One of the most famous mainstream examples of this type of game is of course Monopoly. It itself was originally conceived by Quaker Lizzie McGee as a didactic anti-monopolist game. The initial conditions of Monopoly are random, created by the roll of a dice, but the cascading effect that happens is the same that mires our current capitalist system. A small advantage snowballs into a larger one. The first person to get a slight leg up can then leverage that to dramatically increase their lead. As the famous phrase goes, the first $1 million is the hardest to make. Essentially, once you have money, you can just buy more money. Mario Party similarly teaches us a lesson about the rules of the world, although one of fate and chaos. A beginning advantage doesn't mean shit. The machinations of the game are random and violent, and nobody is safe. Over the years, the Mario Party games have received mixed reviews. Some installments became overloaded with gimmicks that slowed down gameplay and added very little. If you Google a list of what are the best Mario Party games to play, the first 3 usually come out on top, but it's so different to every person. A definitive list is next to impossible to find. Each one is as seemingly random as the mechanics of the game. In 2018, however, I was excited to hear that they were releasing a new entry on the Switch, simply titled Super Mario Party. I was intrigued, but when the reviews came out, my interest deflated. Apparently it was rather threadbare in terms of features, and aside from that, they seemingly hadn't learned their lesson about gimmicks and utilized motion controls. It required 4 Joy-Cons to play, which seems absurd considering an extra set is €70, and there wouldn't be much use for it outside of this game. Anyway, it was only just a few weeks ago that I found out that they had released another Mario Party game last year. Mario Party Superstars. It had flown completely under my radar and it looked promising. It was a collection of previous maps from the first 3 games, a collection of the best minigames from throughout the years, although that's debatable. You could play it with any controller, the Pro Controller, Joy-Cons, GameCube controller, you name it. So I picked up a copy and myself and my roommates have been doing a game every few nights and it has been a blast. To call it nostalgic, I think, is to undersell the fun. Yes, I have nostalgia for Mario and his mushroom pals. Yes, I have very fond memories of playing Mario Party, but this game is just a lot of fun. The insanity, the chaos, the anger. We turned on each other. It got tense. We screamed at the screen. Whenever we play other games together such as Mario Kart or Smash Bros, there's usually a pretty set hierarchy of who will win and who will do well, with just enough variation and frustration to keep it exciting. Mario Party affords no such certainty. It is pure madness. It's Russian roulette. It turns your best friends into your enemies and then back to your allies in the space of a turn. It is the chaos of the universe in microcosm. The CPU player goes from being a bumbling oaf and the butt of every joke to public enemy number 1, a Machiavellian artificial intelligence coded to maximize human misery. Being subject to an endless parade of losses doesn't immunize you from the next, just like how in life, there is no limit to the amount of misfortune that fate can serve up to you. I think this is the lesson we can learn from Mario Party. It emulates the cold indifference and fundamental unfairness of the universe, and yet, by embracing it, by going with it, you can experience joy and happiness, or just emotion, even if that emotion is wanting to smother the person you love most in the world. Jean-Paul Sartre's seminal play No Exit features 3 damned souls who are locked in a single empty room in the afterlife. As the events unfold, it is revealed that their punishment is each other's company, each of them having been hand-chosen by the forces that be to torture the others. One of the characters, Garson, famously states the thesis of the play when he says, "Hell is other people." Mario Party is not an empty room. Rather, it is a mechanism to make any 2 to 4 persons turn on each other, no matter how deep or shallow their bonds may be. No matter how calm or collected you are as a person, it will break you. It will make you hate those around you. In Nintendo's Hell, the personalities do not need to be hand-chosen. All are warped into villains through the mechanisms of the game. Near the end of No Exit, the characters finally open the locked door, but find themselves unable to leave. With Mario Party, I find myself coming back to it again and again. Mario Party might be hell, but it's also a hell of a lot of fun.